Jennings and Jared Perkins, a Prospects Live podcast for everything MLB draft related. Join us as we discuss the biggest stories from college and high school baseball, bring you interviews from your favorite draft prospects and college coaches, and break down live looks at Prospects Live analysis across the nation. Get ready, because you're on a clock with Tyler Jennings and Jared Perkins.
Alrighty, welcome to another episode of On the Clock, the Prospects Live MLB Draft and Amateur Baseball podcast. On the Clock is presented by Job Bats. Job Bats provides the highest quality ash and maple, handcrafted, fully custom bats, apparel, accessories, and more. You can click the link below and enter the code On the Clock 10 at checkout to get a 10% discount. I'm Jared. That's Tyler. We have an awesome guest with us tonight, Burke Granger out of D1Baseball, the Midwest correspondent. Burke, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on. I guess just so people can kind of get to know you, talk a little bit about what you do with D1Baseball and kind of some of the things that you're doing over there.
Yeah, so I've been with D1Baseball since 2019, primarily focused on covering the Midwest. So the Big Ten, the MAC, I'm passionate about some action. Some Big East in there, Horizon League, Wright State's always a fun, interesting team to watch. So, it's covering pretty much everything going on in those conferences. And then I'm located in Columbus, Ohio. So I'm like, Columbus, Ohio is a geographical. There we go. Tyler's rocking his t-shirt.
Love it.
So Columbus I used to think Columbus was not a great place to cover college baseball, but I've really come to embrace it. We got Ohio State here, obviously, and I'm 3 hours from Louisville. I'm 3 hours from Lexington, 3 hours to Ann Arbor, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh. So a lot of different conferences in my footprint that I can get to in a day or two, get to and get back in the same weekend. See a lot. I try to see as many teams as possible in the spring, and it gives me the opportunity to reach out, talk to some coaches, and see some interesting players that maybe, they don't always get into the Carolinas, so Tyler can see them. So I get to check them off the list every now and then.
I love it. I think we got to talk about the first story then. Ohio State getting their new head baseball coach, Justin Herron from Campbell. Talk a lot about what that means for that program and kind of the development there.
It's a big get. I think he was in the running 2 years ago when the job went to Bill Mosiello. And maybe it was 21. It was 20 or 21. Campbell came and played a 2-game series in the midweek here at Ohio State when Zach Nato was there. And I met Justin Herron's parents that week. It was just coincidence. They actually. I don't get noticed or recognized at games very often, but they came up and they're like, "Hey, do you work with D1Baseball?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." And I'm feeling pretty good about myself. And they're like, "You Kendall Rogers?" And I was like, "No, I'm not Kendall Rogers." So I deflated their balloon a little bit there. But they're from Ohio, so they used it as an opportunity to go see their son coach against Ohio State. And 2 years later, he's now has the head job. I think it's good for the program. I think they're on the upswing. I think he's proven what he can do at a mid-major like Campbell in terms of recruiting. Brought some guys with him in terms of brought his coaching staff with him. And I haven't met him. I'm looking forward. I'm going to get over there in the fall and take a look at him at least once and see how he has the guys playing. But it's exciting that baseball is prioritized here in Columbus. Yeah. Football kind of runs the town, but baseball's always been a little underutilized. There's always a lot of good prep talent, and it seems they end up going to play in Indiana or somewhere else. So it'll be good to have, I think he's mentioned in his press conference, he needs to prioritize recruiting in the state of Ohio. And if he does that, I think good things will happen for the Buckeyes.
I love it. Tyler, I know you probably have some thoughts on Justin Herron too, just because you were out at Campbell a ton. You've seen a lot of the talent that he's brought in, kind of like reinvigorated that entire program.
Yeah, and like Campbell's not a big town either. It's not like Columbus where it's a big Midwestern town. This is like middle of nowhere, Harnett County, North Carolina. Like the closest hotels probably 10, 15 minutes away. The entire campus is essentially Bowie's Creek, and like the biggest thing to come out of there before Justin Hare was Rhett and Link, because they went to school right across the street from Jim Perry Stadium. So it's a big get, in my opinion, for Ohio State. I think they pretty much nailed it. Hare has turned that program into a legit juggernaut in the Big South, and I know they struggled this past year, but a different challenge with the Colonial, Coastal, whatever they renamed that conference to. Bringing back Tyler Robinson, who coached at Liberty this past year, and bringing a couple other guys. I do like this get for Ohio State. I think they've done a good job of getting resources around them, and I'm excited to see what happens. I love that he's back in his home state.
Yeah, I love it. Burke, we were talking a little bit offline. You mentioned kind of some of the games you have for fall ball coming up, but I want to talk a little bit about your experience in the Cape Cod League. You said you got to go out there, see some guys. Well, first talk about what that experience was like for you, but also like who were some of the top guys that you saw that really stood out to you?
Yeah, it was my first time at the Cape. Obviously, I've been working in and around baseball for several years, so it was always on that kind of bucket list. And it was really a last-second trip thrown together by Nick Falaris, who was my old partner at 2080 Baseball, and now we have a new venture called Big Game Scouting that we're looking to stand up, and we work together at D1Baseball. He's gone there several years, so I was a little intimidated by the magnitude of how do you maximize your time while you're there. All the games pretty much start in the evenings. You have potential to double up and see 1.5 games a night, but you're there for a short period of time, and Nick thankfully kind of went through and mapped out. he pretty much, I work a day job, as we talked about, Jared, and he pretty much just handed me a schedule. He's like, here, you go to these games, I'll go to these games. And then we met up for the All-Star game and watched that together. So just logistically, it helps to have a guide that can tell you which games to go see. And he knows how anal I am about, I scout the facilities. I want to make sure I have cameras in the right spots. Getting good video is kind of something that I prioritize, and I get anxious going to a stadium I've never been to, wondering how the setup's going to be. I'll pull up pictures online and see like, okay, I can put a camera there. I can put a camera there. What you don't know, or what I didn't really truly appreciate about the Cape Cod League is all these fields are high school fields, and they get more attendance there than most of the games I go to in the spring.
Yeah.
And it's just packed with people, and these people they're locals, and they're passionate about their baseball, and they don't want big tripods in their way. So, I try to navigate the fans is an aspect, of the league that I didn't fully appreciate till I got there. But it's just, in a word, it's awesome. I loved every moment of being there. I'm already mapping out a trip to take my family back there and
love it.
And try to do some baseball in the evenings, family stuff during the day, baseball in the evenings.
Beautiful area too.
It's awesome. Yeah. It's amazing. The traffic sucks. It's terrible.
Awful. There's only one way in and one way out of the Cape. And everybody's got to go that way.
And because all the games start around as folks are going out to dinner, and the food places are amazing. I had lobster rolls like every day I was there. And I'm still paying the credit card bills for them because lobster's expensive. But traffic can be a bit much right around game time. So you'll pull up your navigation app, whatever you're using. You'll see, all right, this next stadium is only 10 miles away. I could definitely double up, but it's going to take me 40 minutes to get there because of traffic.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you ever do a trip, take the extra time to kind of do some research and map out your plan, because it's the best way to make sure you're efficient with your time while you're there.
Yeah.
I went in late July, so we could see the All-Star game. Now, a lot of the top pitchers, after pitching in the spring, and then some of the top guys pitched for the collegiate national team, they had kind of shut it down by then. So I didn't see a ton of great arms when I was there, but a lot of the hitters were still there and taking advantage of some of that down pitching. Some of the games, you would see some top guys who are pumping low to mid 90s, and then you'd get the occasional D2 or local guy come in and he's throwing, he's getting outs. So I'm not disparaging him. And part of my job at D1Baseball is to figure out how these guys with modest velocity are getting outs. But you would see guys sometimes throwing 85, 86 there, and sometimes not commanding it. And that's not very fun when you're at a game, but plenty of good hitters there on display. You asked for some of the top guys that I saw. A few guys that come to mind. Ethan Petrie, who I know, Tyler, you're very familiar with. I saw him kind of in a down game where he was missing. He was swinging and missing on off-speed pitches in the zone. And then then he won the Cape League MVP. He had 11 home runs, slugged 760 in the Cape, which is just phenomenal with wood bats. He led the league in slugging by like 200 points. And he won the home run derby at the All-Star game. And that's where really you could see that double plus raw power, just balls exploding off his bat. RJ Austin played on the same YD team as Petrie, outfielder from Vanderbilt, super utility kind of defender for the Doors last year, played primarily outfield in the Cape. But I loved what I saw from him in terms of bat speed, compact swing, not a lot of wasted movement in the swing. And for a guy like that, who's not the biggest physical guy, for him to show pop and the ball jumping off his bat with a wood bat, that to me bumped him up, I guess, a notch or two in my book. When you see those tools translate with wood bats, he can run. He's at least an above average 55 or better runner. He stole 28 bags in the spring and then another 6 over just 15 games in the summer. So he was a guy that really, really stood out to me. Gavin Turley, who I think you guys have recently had on the podcast. I saw him on in the Super Regional weekend against Kentucky, where he didn't play well, but no one, even Bazana didn't play well. That a lot of the Oregon State players didn't hit that weekend, but was impressive with wood again. His swing got a little long. There's some swing and miss, but I think he's a potential day one guy. He had one line drive single in my look that was like 102 off the bat. Again, seeing that quality of contact with wood, that to me is just the biggest separator when I'm thinking, this early in the draft cycle. And I don't know if you guys feel the same way. It's really just about putting guys in buckets, coming up with rankings this early until the spring happens, that's a crapshoot. But when you're just putting them in buckets and saying, that's a potential day one guy, the results got to be there in the spring. But he's a guy that from a tools perspective, I liked what I saw, and so he's there for me. Where he wasn't necessarily maybe after seeing him in the Super Regional. That's why it's important to get as many looks as possible at these guys. Gavin,
I've talked about that with Tyler before. When I saw Devin Taylor play Maryland, it was like a 30-degree day or something, 40-degree day, and the wind was howling, and he was like 0 for 9 during that entire time, was swinging at everything. He just didn't want to be there, I don't think, because it was so cold. But then the day I didn't go, of course, he went like 3 for 5 with like a home run or something. And so you have to see the guys on multiple occasions because you just don't know you got to understand what the circumstances, situations are for each game.
Absolutely. And it took me a while to realize that in doing this. This is how I'm going to date myself of how old I am. But I started doing this when Corey Ray was a sophomore. So Funkhauser was a junior on that team. So I'm there to see Funkhauser, and he was fine. And then I knew Corey Ray was like a top guy in the next class, and I'm seeing him. against what I thought was below average pitching, swinging through a lot of just fastballs in the zone. And I probably dinged him unfairly on, a look that, I'm seeing these guys in February. So like you're saying, Jared, it's not the best circumstances sometimes. But I just kind of put too much stock in a small sample look. And he ended up being, a top 10 pick the next year. And has had I guess probably a disappointing career by objective standards. But speaking of Louisville, Gavin Keelan was another guy I really liked on the Cape. I'm a fan. He held his own as a freshman at Louisville, broke out a little bit last year, started to hit for more power, particularly like 23 doubles, 9 home runs. One thing I didn't realize is, I knew he's an aggressive hitter. He doesn't strike out a ton. He puts the ball in play, but I was shocked as I was like putting together my Cape notes that he had a 3% walk rate last year. Like 3% that's 7 walks and 234 plate appearances. That's, I mean, hopefully he's not quite that aggressive in Knoxville next year. He did show a little more patience over the summer, but he didn't hit for a ton of pop with wood bats. So he did last summer. He was on the Cape last summer and hit a little better, hit for a little more power.
Yeah. This
summer, not as much, but I like him defensively at shortstop. I'm not sure what their plans are if he stays there. And Curley's got, I think, the better arm, so maybe he slides over to third base. It's a good problem to have. I think they're both really good players. So yeah, those are some of the guys that stood out. I didn't see Devin Taylor. I was shocked to see that he wasn't on the All-Star team. I didn't check his numbers, but I had some colleagues. Nick Flares, like I mentioned, he saw Devin Taylor. Dave Seifert, my colleague at D1, saw him. And I of course saw him. I've seen him a bunch in the spring. He's a guy I really like. I would say he's head and shoulders like the best college prospect in my region heading into this next cycle.
Tyler, I know you saw him at collegiate, right?
Yeah, he was like the only big bat there because, Canarella was hurt and opted for surgery because he played with torn labrum for like 50 some odd games this year. Laviolette didn't show up because they had all the whole like Schloss going to Texas and all of that fun stuff going on. But he was, I said this on Joe's podcast the other night. I liked what I saw. There's hitterish traits. He does get a little jumpy on fastballs, but the power's there. He's athletic enough to where I think maybe Indiana drops him out in center next year. He might be a left fielder at the next level, but I think for the college game this upcoming year, he's going to put himself into that upper echelon of bats in the country. And I think Indiana, we've done it, past 2 years where we said Indiana's going to put everything together. I think this year might be the year. Knock on wood. Third time's a charm, hopefully. But yeah.
I predicted them as an Omaha team heading into last year because all those that junior class was really talented, and I know they lost I think almost all of them to the draft, but a little later than I thought, heading into the cycle, those guys I thought would be more in that day 2 range instead of day 3. But they still got pieces,
Yeah.
I really like Devin Taylor. AJ Shepard's a guy that they're super high on. He would have played a ton as a freshman. He was a highly regarded catcher. Had Tommy John right before the season, missed the season. Comes out his sophomore year. He only played 3 games, hit 2 home runs, and then breaks his wrist, and then he's out for the year. So this is a guy that they were counting on to be a huge part of their team since day one. Haven't had the chance to use him, and I think people are probably sleeping on him because of the injuries. I think he's going to have a big year. Tyler Cerny, he's built kind of like Merrick Houston, in terms of that tall, lean shortstop. He's not as good defensively as Merrick Houston for sure, but he shows flashes of like being a really good defensive shortstop. Yeah, and then he will misplay a ball that's hit right to him. So just finding that consistency, I think. I've talked to scouts, and my first question, because he started as a freshman at second base on that regional team that they had, in deference to Philip Glasser, who was a tremendous defensive shortstop. So Cerny slides over, and I'm everyone who is seeing them, whether it's Aaron Fitt is seeing him early in the season in Carolina, or a scout that I know was there. I'm like, hey, how was Cerny at shortstop? And I would get such a wide range of answers back. Like, he was awesome, dude. Like, no doubt shortstop. And the others are like, it was shaky. So, you don't have those questions with Merrick Houston, who I comped him to. Like, Merrick Houston, I think, is a legit slam dunk shortstop at the next level. Cerny, I don't know, but Cerny might have a little more pop from the right side. Like, that's the thing is, I think Cerny could hit 15, 20 home runs. He might have had that last year for all I know, but a little more power upside with Cerny. Those guys. I think Indiana could do some damage. I think Jeff Mercer is I respect him a ton. I think he's done a tremendous job with that program and is really trying to build a perennial contender in the postseason. And I think he's doing a great job of it. And from a recruiting standpoint, Andrew Wiggins, I didn't even talk about him, who was a blue chip recruit out of high school and played. It was a crowded outfield last year. He didn't get a ton of opportunities, but he made the most of them when he did. And I think he'll be an everyday player who's going to put up just monster numbers this year.
Yeah, I really liked Cerny when I saw him versus Maryland.
Yeah.
It was pretty good gap power. He was a little bit over aggressive and overswung at times, but man, like when he was making contact, he was getting barreled the ball, and like I think he probably was the most impressive offensive player during that entire series in the cold. So yeah, and like you said, defensively, like I think I was one when I saw him. He looked good. Like he was making the plays left to right. He was doing a good job getting to the ball, but he never botched one in the two games that I saw him. So like I think it's just it's interesting to kind of hear the different takes and hear different people seeing those. And I think that's the other thing that it's a good reminder for us when we're doing like our analysis too. It's like someone might see something completely different than what we saw.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing is like trying to understand what others see while also knowing, like trusting your eyes and what you saw and kind of just comparing notes instead of, being some of these kids on Twitter who I'm not going to name, but they're just like, I'm right, you're wrong, even though they don't go to the amount of games that like me and Burke do. And like, Burke, I've told you this before a million times. Your video's incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Like, I work hard at it, so I appreciate it.
I still remember the Chase Burns film that you got last spring, which was a whole debacle, but like
that was almost too good. It got me in trouble.
Hey, was that ever worked out? I don't know if I've asked you since, but
no, it kind of went away. Like so to catch the listeners up. So yeah, first weekend of the year I was at Wake Forest last year, and it was Chase Burns' Wake Forest debut. It was a pretty big story at the time, and he goes out and shoves, of course, and then his first of several starts that year where he shoved and grabbed headlines. And I posted a video, and maybe I got it greedy. I posted a full inning. I posted his first inning, and I charted the pitches, so I listed how many whiffs he got on each pitch and stuff like that. And it got a lot of play online. Like Pitching Ninja retweeted it, and like it got like 1 million views the first day. So it was like I was really enjoying my first weekend of the year. And then on Sunday, as I'm getting ready to make the long drive back to Columbus, I'm getting like copyright strikes on Twitter. And I've had those before for like if I'm posting BP video and it has songs playing in the background.
Yeah. I've gotten that too.
That's all part of like an algorithm that picks up, and I'm used to those, and I'm just like, whatever. But this one was an employee at I forget the name of the company. It's the parent company that owns the ACC network and ESPN.
I think it was Raycom.
It was Raycom Sports. So they're like, well, this is our intellectual property. You're not allowed to have images of the game or footage of the game without our express written consent. So they struck down that video and a few others, including like where I was just getting side video of a swing where I'm not following the ball or anything. I'm just a video of the swing. But they took down those videos, and the way it works on Twitter is you can challenge it. So I was like, hey, I'm challenging it. I was an accredited member of the media, and I took this video, and my argument was no one's choosing like to not go to the game because I'm there and I might post like they're not like, hey honey, should we turn on the Wake Forest game? Like, nah, there's a guy there who might post a video 3 hours from now that we can see everything we need to see. Like,
and it's not like you're streaming the entire game.
Right. I'm not competing with no one is not watching Raycom Sports so they can watch my 1 minute Twitter videos. Like, so I made that argument, and they're like, I responded, and then the way it works is when you respond, then they have a chance to contest my response, basically like take me to court. And I think they realized this isn't worth doing. So they didn't respond. They didn't respond to my challenge. So my videos popped up a week later. And I did get an email from someone at Raycom Sports, and he's like, listen, you are technically in violation of the policy, which I get. I just don't think anyone should be enforcing the policy. And he's like, if you want, I can sell you a license to do this. And I'm like, okay, sure. Let price out that license. I bet that license costs more than my year's salary at D1Baseball.
Yeah.
And one, I don't cover the ACC. Like, this is just more of a one-off thing. But he was saying that he works with the Big Ten network and the SEC network, and he could sell me a license for all of these things. So I'm like, yeah, give me the price on that. And I was just planning to dunk on him on Twitter if he did, but he never ended up giving me. What I would assume is his bosses told him to drop it because they were getting some negative press over it. But it was just, it was a hell of a way to start out the year for sure.
It's just kind of wild because, I mean, I posted Chase Burns' entire start, I think, on Twitter.
Right.
But my video quality probably wasn't as good like you guys do. I have a cell phone. You guys have like legit cameras there. But like I posted the entire start still, and I had never had it taken down. And like we're all posting video at all times. Like, and it's not like we're posting the entire game. We're just showcasing like these draft prospects for people.
Yeah. If anything, I think it brings more people to the broadcast. If they're like, hey, this is with slow motions, stuff that we're able to do with video, like slow-mo shots and overlays and things like that. If anything, it brings more people to their product too. Like I don't get paid by videos or anything like that.
No.
It's just I'm there because I'm passionate about baseball, like you guys are. So the whole thing was stupid in my opinion, and I basically decided I'm not going to change the way I do what I do, and it never came back to bite me in the ass later in the year. Some of my colleagues got kind of, oh, you did, Tyler. Yeah.
Yep. I texted you immediately.
Once we got to the postseason, like some of my colleagues and Tyler, you and I were texting, got slapped on the wrist. And so I get that a little bit. Like I don't get it. I take that back.
But the thing is, it's like Perfect Games out there, PBR's out there, like D1Baseball's out there. We're out, like there's so many people out there getting film. Like it's not like it's a competition. Like everybody's out there because they're passionate about it. They enjoy the game. They want to showcase specific highlights for people. Like it's cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing too for me is like, if I remember correctly, the only videos they took down that weekend were yours and those of Wake Forest. They weren't taking down anything else from the ACC. And it's not like they handed us a form before the year with like SIDs and whatnot. It was like, you have to sign this so you can film and whatnot. Like, if they're going to enforce that, then I think that's just a stupid policy to enforce. And I think the NCAA is the same thing, like the postseason stuff where you can't film because it's brought like the broadcast rights belong to ESPN or something. I know I told you, Burke, Jared, I may have told you, but that Vance Honeycutt walk-off bomb, I did get open side. can never post it because my ass would be grass in about 0.5 seconds. So, because I remember pre-game, I was doing my normal, put up the cameras and everything, just seeing like, okay, maybe I can sneak this shit somehow. Put one camera up. I was like, great, this is perfect. We're gonna go from there. Go down to this camera well at the Bosch on the first base side. Get down there. I'm sitting at the camera. Then there was a girl that was working. She was one of the security guards, I guess, that was on the field. She saw that. She was like, let me get my boss on the walkie here, because I don't know if you're allowed to do that. She was very nice about it. I'm sure there's others that would probably be much more mean about it. But, I mean, rules are rules. I don't want the NCAA in my emails telling me to never come back to their games, but like, I feel like if that video is out there on Twitter, that would do so much for the game of baseball and for college baseball in general. Just with the fact that everything's been on the up and up for the past couple of years, there's a lot more eyes on the sport as a whole, and it's only going to continue doing that over the next couple of years with the way the broadcasting and streaming rights are. So, I feel like they need to adapt and kind of just change the ways. Like we're like you guys have said, we're doing this because we're passionate and we want people to be gravitated towards
grow the game,
the sport. Essentially, we're trying to grow the game as a whole. Why that adaptation hasn't come from the higher ups, I have no idea. Money, I guess, is the one way to do it.
Yeah, that's TV contracts.
Yeah, I wish I could get some of that money.
Yeah,
I'm at least more understanding about in the postseason, because I don't know about you, Tyler, but like when I'm reaching out for credentials throughout the season, I never get. It's just I get an email back from the SID. Yep, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
In the postseason, they are pretty clear. Like every member of credential media gets like these rules that are and they're pretty express. Like, hey, do not post clips. So at least they give you a heads up in the postseason. Like the regular season, like this, like I got a call the next day from Corey Muscara, the pitching coach at Wake Forest, and he's just like, what did they do? Like, he's like, we are, because at first I'm like, maybe Wake didn't want me posting like full inning videos, because other teams could scout like, how a guy sequences his pitches or something. But I was relieved the next day to get a call. He's like, this is BS. We're gonna fight this. So I don't know. Like maybe they made some calls, and that's why it got dropped too. So.
But as much as like they don't like their guys being filmed, they probably like the fact that other teams are getting filmed if they want to go. I mean, they all probably have their own camera systems anyways.
I think they do. Yeah, they all have better video than what I'm posting probably out there. But it was a weird way to start the year. But thankfully it didn't hurt me too much throughout the rest of the spring.
Yeah. Speaking of getting back out to the field, I know we got fall ball approaching. Tyler's got some games he's already lined up. I got some that I'm planning to go to. But what are the kind of big fall games that you're planning to head out to this?
I'm still kind of. My wife asked me the same question as we were sitting and watching my son's baseball practice tonight. Not a lot of talent there. Trust me, it was. That was a rough one. But I know Louisville's got. I think Louisville and Indiana is one that I'm really excited to see, and I'll probably make my way down south for that. I'm not sure. I'll hit some scout days and some scrimmages, some inter squad stuff. I'm excited this time of year when those schedules come out, but it gives me like, again, I'm a planner, so I'm going through and trying to make the most use of my time. Trying to see where I can double up and hit a game, and then there's a beautiful park here in Ohio in the Cincinnati area called Prasco Park. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. Like it's this private park that it's run by a church, and they host like one of the high school travel ball teams plays there, but then they do the Big East tournament down there, and it's honestly the best field in Ohio for amateur baseball. And I know that there's a few scrimmages there, and I always try to make it down there. It's only an hour and a half away. But yeah, to answer your question, Jared, I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to try to see as much as I can within reason. But for me, I need to check off as many teams as possible, because I need to write about the guys who aren't getting drafted too.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'll be reaching out to coaches, and sometimes I'll just drop in when they're having a random practice, and then spend some time talking to the coaches about who they think is going to contribute for them. And I haven't put that together, but it's an exciting and kind of nerve-wracking time to try to figure out how I'm going to make it all work and see as many teams as I can.
Yeah, I luckily don't have a ton of teams around me. Well, I guess luckily and unluckily. But
where are you located at?
DC, Maryland, Virginia, like right in that little triangle.
Yeah.
So it's like Georgetown, Maryland, Virginia are basically the top three to get out to. So they got some good scrimmages. Rutgers is coming down. UNC Wilmington's coming up to Virginia. Then Maryland will play Georgetown. So some decent talent and some fun games to watch.
What do you think of the Hookapan, the younger one on Maryland?
Oh, Chris?
Team?
Yeah, he's good. He didn't do too much when I saw him versus Indiana, but I've been talking to Rekka about him a lot because he's gotten some more looks on him, and he looks pretty impressive. I watched some video on him as well. Really like him. I think he could stick at third base. His bat's way better than his older brothers too.
That's what the coach Matt Swope. I was at a series against Michigan last year in Ann Arbor and talked to him after the game. And he was like, man, Chris is the most physical freshman in the country. And he's like, he's way better at this point than his older brother, who was a pretty good college baseball player. When it was all said
good college senior.
So, when a coach goes to bat for their kid that much, and he's like, you need to be paying attention to this kid, then I usually do take notice. And, he was bad. I think he had the flu when I saw him and missed the game, but he's a guy, I really want to check off my list again early in the season and make sure I'm getting a good look at him.
Yeah. He's a local kid too. So I'm from Gaithersburg. He's from Gaithersburg as well. So, but I think he went to P27 Academy, for high school. The wild number too is he only struck out 10 times in 158 plate appearances
last year.
Yeah.
Wow. For a freshman, that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. So he's one I definitely want. He didn't do, again, I think it might have been the cold weather. He just wasn't making solid contact. So I tried to take like all the hitters I saw with kind of a grain of salt during that series, because like as much offense as there was, it just didn't seem like guys were comfortable at the dish.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be either if it's 30 degrees and 15
No,
mile an hour.
I was miserable sitting behind home plate. It was awful.
I've come to embrace those. Like, give me that over 90 degrees with humidity any day.
That's true.
Yes, thank you. Finally, somebody says it.
Plus, like, when the ballpark's pretty empty and you can move around, like we like to jump from behind home plate to be like, all right, this guy's on deck. I want to be over there to get an open side look when he comes up. And I get so used to that in the spring in these half-empty Big Ten stadiums that when I get to regionals, it's like you're not moving in between. You're not getting from one side to the other in between hitters there. Like you need to decide. You need to plan. Yeah. Like when Travis Bazzana was playing, I was like, I know I need to be in that seat right down there. I knew the stadium at Kentucky Proud Park. I had covered the regional the weekend before, so I'm like, okay, he's coming there. I know exactly where I need to be when he comes up to the plate, and I would have to start making my way down there like an inning before just to navigate all the people there.
That's why I love going to Maryland over Virginia, because there's like no one there. Yeah. And like every seat you can get like a good spot to film. Virginia, like it's packed house. Like when I went to saw Chase Burns, Wake Forest, I had to like find the last available seat behind home plate. And I was at a weird angle too. Yeah,
you're on a bad angle. And that's why, like, and Tyler and I have talked about this offline, but it's like I love and hate going to like Hawkins Field for Vanderbilt or Lindsey Nelson for Tennessee. Like, one, you're seeing the best talent. Like that's the draw, is like every hitter and every arm they bring in is worth seeing. The bad thing is, these programs are huge now. The ballparks are small. And like it's hard to get a seat. Like even scouts, like, I'm there having fun. My livelihood doesn't depend on it.
Yeah.
These scouts are getting kicked out in like the third inning by season ticket holders who just finally showed up. Like, that would drive me bonkers. Like,
Yeah.
and those, and they don't really have a lot of reverence. They don't show a lot of reverence for scouts and especially media like me. Like they're just like, why are you in my seat? And I'm like, well, the Esther told me I could be here until you got here. So
Yeah.
It's those small ballparks are in SEC country it's a love and hate relationship, man. Like I said, the talent is second to none. The atmosphere is fun if you're a fan, and first and foremost, I'm a fan, but I'm also there to get some work done, and it's hard to get work done in those places.
Yeah. Then you got Georgetown, who doesn't even have a home field. So
we got a few of those.
You got the life.
Yeah. Georgetown shares their field with like another like D2 college. So the D2 college plays their home games when Georgetown's on the road, and then Georgetown plays their home games when that D2 school's gone. So it's in, and it's not even on campus. It's in like Tyson's Corner in Virginia.
Yeah.
And so like it's 25-30 minutes from the university. It's kind of weird. They don't have an off-campus field, and
it's weird to think, like, again, I'm old enough to remember when the Big East was like a football conference, and now it's like I think of all the baseball teams, and I'm like, do any of them even have football teams in the Big East? Like,
yeah. Georgetown's building a pretty good program under Thompson, though.
Yeah.
So he had the Sheffield brothers there for a while. He's gotten some good talent in there. Tristan Head's interesting, the guy from Virginia who didn't really play.
Yeah.
He's transferring over there. Tyler, do you have any other questions, things you want to discuss before we kind of wrap things up?
I'm trying to think of like ballparks that drive me insane.
We'd had this discussion on one pod last year too, didn't we?
Oh, did you? I love talking about this stuff. Like,
Lindsey Nelson's definitely one of the tougher ones because it's like there's nowhere open side to really put a camera, and all of the fans are drunk. They're going to see camera and start playing with it. I think this wasn't in Tennessee. This was before I went this year, but South Carolina, there's a group of like 4 drunk guys down at the very bottom. I had an open side camera for Jace Laviolette and Braden Montgomery because I was like, they're lefty tonight, might as well. I learned never put a camera on the railing if you don't have a sturdy enough brace, because drunk fans will see that, put it on the concrete, and now I've got like a busted camera that still works. So it's like, but like, I don't want to say the ACC is better. Like NC State has its warts. Duke's redoing their ballpark right now, which is great because they've been really good the past couple of years and really deserve that kind of upgrade. The Bosch is second to none, like one of the best ballparks in terms of getting open side film because it's so open, and if you have a media pass, you're able to get down to field level, and it's just so much easier to get film that way. Yeah. Instead of fighting with some like 50-year-old with his family and 2 kids, like trying to find ways to get to their seats. It feels good. Feels good.
Yeah.
Best experience I had was the MLB Draft League. There's no one there. And it was Rentaro Sensaki's like U.S. debut, and there was still no one there.
I thought you told me there's a bunch of media there.
Media was there, but like actual fans going to the game, there was a ton of media there. Like the whole entire press, couldn't even fit everybody in the press box. They had to open up a suite for extra press and to put them in there. And they actually served food, and like the guy was like, "Yeah, we never serve food to the media. This is like the first time we're ever doing this." But that was
now
cool.
Reminds me of Rentaro now being in the ACC, so he's probably going to be here.
Stanford, he's going to be somewhere around you.
Probably, yeah. I've heard the rumor that like the ACC is probably sending both Stanford and Cali out here more often the first 2 years, and then like the third year, all the East Coast teams go that way. I don't know.
It's gonna be weird.
We'll find out. I just want baseball schedules to be released because I need baseball in my life right now.
Yeah. Was it UCLA and USC are in the Big Ten now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Washington and Oregon.
Can't wait for the 8 a.m. Sunday game.
Yeah, it's going to be weird. Like it's literally coast to coast now with Rutgers, and logistically, programs like football who have all the money, like they'll be able to do it, obviously. But it'll be curious to see how the schedules are going to work for baseball and
Yeah.
And even the other, the other collegiate sports that don't generate revenue, like lacrosse and stuff. I don't know how you do that, flying people across the country.
Yeah, they're gonna host some kind of like tournament style in the middle of the country or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're like, neutral sites or whatever.
Yeah, or regionalize it. I'm sure all those 4 West Coast teams will play each other every year, and then you mix in, you sprinkle in. They only play Rutgers once every 3 years or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's the way they got to go. That, or like, I guess if there was a way to make it to where some of the programs can stay in the conference they were originally in, except for like obviously the Pac-12, because the Pac-12 is just non-existent at this point. But
who joined it? Like, who? I didn't even look to see. Was it a bunch of like Mountain West Conference teams?
I think for football they've done the Mountain West. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about baseball. I think they're independent.
I think Oregon State's independent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I don't know about Washington State though. I haven't heard much about that front.
Yeah, I don't even know what. Yeah, so it's like the mountain. It says like the Mountain West. Like if you go to men's sports on the website and click baseball, it's like it says Mountain West. So like all the Pac-12 teams must be playing in the Mountain West. Weird.
Can I before we adjourn, can I give you 3 kind of under the radar Big Ten pitchers that you guys might not know, but you guys might know, but your listeners might not know.
Yes, please do.
They're going to know. So the first one is Joseph DeZerwa, Michigan State lefty. I saw him as a freshman. He was a Friday night starter for them as a freshman, but he's 6'7", weighed, I think at the time, like it had to be like 160, like looks like a baby giraffe, and a low slot, kind of funky slot lefty. Is a good pitcher. He didn't have that strength or physicality to kind of carry that velocity as a freshman. Like it would drop down to like mid to low 80s, like halfway through the game. Saw him last year against Ohio State, and it had ticked up. He had gained maybe 20 pounds. He's still got a ways to go. But he was carrying the velocity. He touched 92, I think, and then was carrying like 90 late in the game. It reminds me a lot of Sean Sullivan, who was a guy who was a Big Ten guy from Northwestern, went to Wake Forest, and they turned him into like a day one guy. So I kind of thought that might be the case when he got into the portal last year. I think Wake Forest was in on him. He ended up committing to Vanderbilt and then went back to Michigan State. So he's at Michigan State now again. I really like him as a guy to emerge this year. Another guy is Aaron Savory, who's a reliever he was a reliever last year for Iowa. He's not at the same level as like Brody Brecht, obviously, but he might be that next big pitcher to come out of Iowa. Saw him coming out of the bullpen, and it's a little bit lower slot. He's tall and thin. Fastball is pretty modest. He topped out at, I think, 92. His calling card is the sweeping slider that has like 3,000 RPM spin. And I don't have the numbers to quantify the horizontal break, but it was significant. Like a scout I was sitting by was like, that ball takes a left turn halfway to home plate. Like it's big. And I saw him on the Cape, and he pitched in the All-Star game at the Cape, and really seemed to be putting it together. And for me, it's like a Brady Singer comp. He's sinker slider guy. Like it's pretty good sink coming out of that low slot, and then it contrasts well with the slider, which really, like I said, it's got to be 20 some inches of break on it. The third, and this one might be a true under the radar guy for you guys. It's Blaine Wink from Ohio State. He went to Findlay as a freshman, which is a D2 school here in Ohio. He was essentially like, he was a reliever last year, but they stacked him on Friday night. So he always finished the games on Fridays and would go 3, 4, 5 innings sometimes. And shorter stints, it was up to like 98. And I didn't see him on the Cape, but I ran into a scout that I know at the Cape, and he was like, have you seen Wink yet this summer? It's like legit. So again, he's one of those guys I'm really looking forward to seeing in the fall. I think, it's a potential starter, potential Friday night guy for them, depending on what else they have. But he was 90, 94 when I saw him, but in shorter stints, I've heard it's been up to 98. And he's a guy he's tall and thin too, but as he adds strength, I could see him being a draft guy in that day 2 range. But just a guy to make note of, and you guys can play this later in the year is when he gets some press, and you can say Burke was on him first.
We'll clip it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tweet it out, and then someone will take it down on us.
Yeah. I do also have the Savory horizontal break on the sweeper, 21 inches.
There we go. My estimation was okay.
Yeah, you're on the money with it. I assume you could probably see it in the video for anybody watching on YouTube. My eyes got massive when I saw the number on here. So if anybody wonders what kind of drugs I had in the middle of that, that's what I was looking at.
Yeah, and it's 3,000 spin, 21 inches of break, like that'll grab
do
some attention for sure.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. Before we kind of wrap up, Burke, where can everybody find your stuff? Just let them know where your Twitter is, all that kind of fun stuff.
It's just Burke Granger on Twitter, BurkeGranger, and then follow us at D1Baseball, and then Big Game Scouting on Twitter and YouTube.
Love it. Tyler, do you got anything you want to add about content coming out soon?
About the same as it usually is, just waiting for school to kind of lighten up and go from there. So obviously follow Burke. Burke's amazing. Absolutely love the guy. I've known you for 5 years now, and every interaction has just been amazing. So
I met you first at the tournament, not Tournament of Stars. It was wait, what's the big high school tournament in Cary?
NHSI.
When you were just out dipping your toe into it. So
look at you now, Tyler.
It's awesome to see how far you've grown, and you're a hell of a worker, man. And that's what I respect, is you put in the work, and it's great to see how far you've come, man, too.
It's appreciated, dude. And like all the stuff bouncing ideas off you've been phenomenal. So
of course, anytime, man.
Love it. Burke, thank you for taking the time to join us on the Clock. And for you, until next time, we'll see you.